one of the things that you mentioned is having a shared story in as we're going through the world, kind of really parking our theology within the greater biblical framework of the story and its trajectory and where it's headed. Because we live by a story. You've mentioned this in several different of your writings. Why is it so important to hang this truth and understanding within the greater biblical narrative?
As Christians, we are not at liberty to pick and choose in the Bible, to say, we want this little strand here, that's going to be our... And no doubt we all begin by having certain biblical strands which we kind of like and understand and can go with. But it's rather that the story of Jesus itself embeds itself into the narrative from Genesis to Revelation. In other words, the story of creation and new creation, the story of covenant and new covenant, or renewed covenant or renewed creation. And the way that the Gospels tell the story of Jesus has its roots deep in the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, in the promises of creation and new creation and covenant and new covenant. And it's pointing forwards the whole time to the ultimate new creation of resurrection and the new world. And so if we're followers of Jesus, and the Jesus that we know is the Jesus we find in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, not some fantasy figure that we've dreamt up somewhere else, the real Jesus, then we are not at liberty to say, well, we'll have Jesus, but we will forget those Old Testament roots. Many people have tried to do that. Or we'll have Jesus, but we'll forget that he was talking about new creation and think that he was talking about souls go to heaven. Thousands of people still believe that, of course. Rather, we need that whole biblical framework. And when we forget it, we lapse back into some kind of philosophy. Christian Platonism is the popular thing, has been for years, which is about the souls going to heaven and so on. Somehow, those of us who are gripped by the total biblical story, we have to learn how to tell that and how to live it in a way which makes people say, oh, that's curious. I'd never quite seen it like that before. How does that play out with this and that and the other? Those are the golden moments for me as a teacher, when I realize that people are glimpsing a bigger picture of the biblical narrative. And no doubt, if I live for another 5 or 10 or 15 years, please God, I will see bigger and bigger vistas as well, because that's been happening to me all my life, and I hope it's not going to stop now.